And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Fran. What would you like me to say?
Tell us about where you're from, maybe a little bit about your practice and how you managed to be sitting here today with a big canvas towering behind you.
Well, I actually grew up here in Adelaide on Kaurna land. Gosh, that's a big question.
We can go into the questions in the slideshow if you want, because you've got some amazing images.
Go on then, do that.
All right. So the first question we've got is what are you currently working on?
Currently working on, so last October I had a residency to Grindle's Hut with Country Arts SA. Grindle's Hut's in Adnyamatna country, and it's in the Volcatana Gammon Ranges, which is like north of the Flinders. It's very remote and like quite hard to access and isolated, which I really love. And we took all the kids up, like we've got 4 kids between us. And so what I'm working on now is everything I started there, is trying to bring it together into a body of work for an exhibition in Port Augusta, which opens on the 3rd of October at Yatapurtli Cultural Centre. So I've sort of made a lot of beginnings, and I'm trying to tie some of those together to be ready for this exhibition. That's what I'm working on generally.
Tell us about the work that you're going to be putting in Port Augusta.
Well, see, it's a long story with a lot of other stories that tie into it.
We love stories.
Good, me too. So, I just need to talk about this residency first, because that sort of leads into the answers.
I've got the images here for you too.
Yes. So we took all our kids, all 4 of them, and we had to squish into one car, and it was quite a long sort of 4-wheel drive track. And we were very squashed. And I thought, I'm not going to take too much stuff in. I'll try to use like found pigments and recycle our packaging, our food packaging, to paint on. So I just took a very big pot of gesso, and you can gesso just about anything and draw on it, which I do. And so I started to, that was basically all I had in mind. And then things just evolved from there, and it just ended up that I was like the sunsets and the sunrises are spectacular, and the landscape just.
I think it's Fran's internet, is it? Or is it mine?
These little recycled like tea bags and porridge packets. I've got some that haven't been painted on. So that's what they. Oh, you see me?
Yep.
Can I use that?
I'll take it. I'll make you.
They're my surfaces. They were the surfaces. So this is a little tea bag, and that's a porridge packet, which we took for a bit of a treat for the kids. And they became good drawing surfaces. But I kind of like using the text in things, just isolating little bits of text and making it part of the story.
We've lost your video. I don't know. Oh, here you go. You're back.
Is it all right?
Yep.
Yeah, I like taking little bits of the text and making it part of the story. So we learned when we were there that it hadn't rained there in 4 years, and a lot of trees that shouldn't be dying were dying, like the river red gums and the native pines, and even the goats.
Sorry.
The goats are dying, the feral goats. Pardon?
We keep losing your video.
I can see it, but I don't know what's going on.
Now. Can you start again by showing us what you held up?
Yes. Well, these are the little surfaces, so little tea sachets. Can you hear and stuff?
Yep, but it must be your connection because it's very unstable. Is it me or yeah?
No, we just keeps on breaking up the video.
Yeah, that's all right. What we'll do is get you to talk over the top of the slides because I don't think your video's strong enough.
All right, I'm gonna move and see what happens.
Are you? Is there a brick wall between you and your modem?
Yeah, I'll go and move. Hang on.
Okay, your backyard and your pigtails.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna don't look too closely.
While you're doing that, I've got your work from that time.
Right. Try again. Is that better?
Yep, so far. I think there's a bit of wind around, which is probably affecting everyone.
Okay.
So we went and saw that Donna and I went and saw Fran's exhibition at Collective Haunt with all her little tea bags and in a beautiful little row with all these little tiny paintings.
Yeah, if you can, I'm not sure if you can see on them, but they've got like the tea bags have got little bits of text on, and it was quite appropriate to wind the text into the images to help tell the story of what they were about. So I don't know if you missed the bit where I said that it hadn't rained there in 4 years, so a lot of you know, everything was dead and dry. Like there wasn't a lot of sign of life when we first drove in. Can you hear me all right at the moment?
Yep.
And so big river red gums were dead, and native pines, and even the feral goats. You know, like we only saw about 3 the whole time we were there, which was a bit disturbing. But it was still stunningly beautiful and amazing to just wake up to this landscape that just went on forever. But so these are little porridge packets, and it just seemed appropriate to keep the little bits of text that talked about just adding water. And you know, they're painted in watercolor, so, and you know, the porridge in them needed water, and the paint needed water, and what I was painting needed water. And these ones are, we got gifted, went to Yalmaralpana, not sure I've got that exactly right, ochre pit, which was near Eaglewater, and Uncle Cliff Coulthard gifted us some beautiful ochres, and there's like 4 different colours, and I've used them in just about every artwork I've created in response to that residency. But these little tea bags are just, they were gessoed and then layered in ochre and tea and coffee, some of them, I'm not sure of these ones exactly, and acacia and eucalyptus sap and charcoal and bushfire ash, actually. And actually they were created at home during that coronavirus stay at home time. And it was quite handy to have something little to just work on, you know, that, because I often need to just be able to make things in snatches of time that are quite immediate, because there's a lot to be done with kids running around and stuff, and didn't take up too much room. Shall I keep talking? I'm worried you can't hear me.
No, we can.
It's all good.
Right. Resourcefulness.
What's that?
It seems that the theme of the whole conference has been about how resourceful
Ah,
art
yes.
can be.
Yeah. Well, it's all creativity, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, this is the box that the tea bags were in. And then I had, when you saw the image earlier, there was like the tea bags that were in it were unfolded and stretched across each side with little landscapes painted on each one. Yeah, that one. And I just kept little bits of the text within the tea bag that sort of added to the story.
We've lost you again.
Are really, really generous and want to teach. You know, they're really willing to eat and share. And it was really interesting to learn about the local plants and animals and the names for them. So sometimes I've penciled them in next to some of the things I've drawn.
Oh, wonderful, respect.
Well, yeah, it's just like it. You know, lots of people sort of go there and they might call things, you know, by the name that was put on them by explorers or whoever. And I remember Uncle Cliff Coulthard saying, you know, they already had names. We already have names for them. And I was sort of interested to learn, you know, those names. And the materials in them, yeah, there's ochre in all of them, and watercolor, tea, coffee, salt lake salt, and the local dirt. And that's all part of the story. The other thing is, my dad mapped that area geologically, and we used to go up there with him now and again. He's a geologist. And he came up for a little while and to teach me about, or to share his knowledge about the geology of the area too. And I kind of like the words he uses, like striation and erosion and abrasion and so many others, but they seem to transfer directly into drawing, which I've tried to explore in the Grindle's Hut artwork.
Oh, true.
But I like the way, you know, like the history of, like the narrative of a drawing's history is sort of held in its marks and its layers, and the narrative of the Earth's history is held in its rocks, and I like that connection.
Yeah, cool. Interesting parallels.
I remember your question now. Have I answered it?
You said something about your kids being involved in your practice while you were at the hut.
Yes. They were very helpful. They gessoed a lot of these little things and helped me throw dirt on them and did some paintings themselves. They ate the porridge that was in the packet.
Very important.
Yeah, and we went out also, like we made a lot of, actually I have one next to me, but it's gone. We used plaster a fair bit. We were sort of casting plaster into, yeah, into, this is one of the plaster things. I had these other ones where we poured plaster into the earth and then dropped native plants into them. And I'm still mucking around with those at the moment, but that was a fun thing to do with the kids. And yeah, because kids enjoy plaster, but these things we're looking at is the plaster poured into the porridge packets themselves, which the kids enjoyed helping me with. And then we've sort of scratched in little elements of some of the plants and scraped rocks across them to make marks. And the colours are like the local saps and the ochres and ash and charcoal. And I've sort of rubbed each plaster object in it and then sort of rubbed it off in different ways, just thinking of those words like abrasion and striation and erosion And just what's naturally evolved is they look like a bit like the river pebbles, and they're also the same colours as the pebbles in the river, the creek that just runs, well, it's dry, but it's next to Grindle's hut. Yeah, and people have said they look like bones too, which I kind of like, because we did come across quite a few bones, although not as many as you'd think, because everything's been dead for so long. There's actually not a lot left, which is also shocking.
And how was the experience of isolation?
Well, I had my, are you talking about at Grindle's hut?
Yeah.
I had my family with me. So it was really nice to be just us and the country around us. It just, like, it's spectacular. It's just unbelievable to wake up to it every morning. It was a good feeling, yeah. Everyone was just felt sort of free and liberated and happy, really. And there's nothing else to, you know, like, there's no internet, there's no phone or TV or electricity, you know. And so we just really sort of connected and made art and played games and got into nature.
Well, it's like in your face out there. I mean, it's vast and majestic.
Yeah, majestic's a good word. It's certainly majestic.
So one of the main reasons we put this together is to hear about people's practice. Sorry, there's a plane going over right now.
It'll probably go over me soon, and then there'll be a freight train.
There'll be a freight train at some stage as well. Yeah, I wondered if you could share with us about your practice pre-COVID and then COVID, and maybe the differences and just the structure and nature and what works for you. And yeah, that's really fascinating to us.
Do I have to flick through these images myself, or do you do that? Your sound's gone off.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I don't mind. I was just curious.
I can flick for you. I can make you co-host, and then you could flick yourself. Actually, I don't know if that.
No, you can't. I can't change them.
Right. Now, what was your question? Coronavirus.
If you want to share about the images, then maybe that's covered.
So this image here, well, this is, I've selected a few images that tell the story of the progress of the artwork. So
would it be like
one? That one? Yeah. Yeah, so when I had kids, I had to come up with a new process that worked in with being a mother, and so that I wasn't sort of feeling, you know, I wanted to continue my practice. And the way to do that was to spread the canvas over the tabletop, the raw canvas, and just draw whatever passed across it, because I knew that was the only time I sort of sat down for any length of time, and the kids could sit around and draw and join in, and it just built up a narrative of moments and connections over the tabletop.
It does.
And spinachs and stuff are welcome, you know. I'm very not precious. So I would even encourage the kids to spill their drinks on the table. Yeah, so that was the first one. And then that evolved a bit. I did the collections project at, with Guildhouse at the Flinders Art Museum. And that was one of the artworks that evolved out of that, and I was looking at botanical illustrations, and artist called Ferdinand Bauer, and the way he really complex color, what do you call it, paint by numbers color coding system, and I sort of tried to apply that to my own drawing and come up with my own color code. I tried to match the colors exactly to the domestic objects as well as the botanical ones. And like I drew them all first and then put numbers on them and put the numbers down on the objects and tried to get like my kids and myself like to paint by numbers, at least for part of it. I didn't want to draw all of, like color in all of it, but just sort of parts of it. And also, like, so it started off with just the domestic objects, but I'm really interested in native plants. My kids have become interested in that too. So we were sort of learning about our backyard together and the things we find around our street, the plants we find around the street, and bringing them to the tabletop and drawing them and learning their names, their Ghana names and their botanical names and their names that people commonly call them around the place. So that's what that one was about. I could talk a lot about it, but I'll, you know, go on to the next one. Yeah. Now, yes, so that's got the same sort of process on the tabletop, and that one was at Central School of Art in that exhibition Good Mother, which was created by Gabby Lane last year or the year before. And I started, like, I really like negative space, which my students probably get tired of, because I talk about it a lot. But I just think it's beautiful the way it just connects everything. And I was exploring the negative space in the drawing itself on the canvas, and then like physically pouring, you know, plaster into the negative space of the objects that passed across the table that I had drawn. And then me and the kids drew on top of those as well.
Oh, I love that. How negative space connects us.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love plaster too. It's a beautiful surface to draw on, and I was lucky enough to get one of those Ruth Tuck scholarships many years ago, and I went to Florence and studied art there, and like the frescoes are on plaster, and that just set my head ticking since then on the idea of drawing on plaster. And I like its connection to childhood too. The kids like to explore it with me and, you know, sculpt things and stick pipe cleaners into it. So that's where the plaster began. And also it's sort of like a still life, and they're perfect for, like, because I teach drawing, and actually this is giving me an idea because they're perfect for, like, they just show the full of light, like, so clearly, that they're actually really good to draw in themselves as a when you're sort of learning to draw tone on a, like, the full of light on a three-dimensional object. So I like their connection to drawing itself. And the fact it's a still life, but like life's never still, so everything's moving across the surface. And they make their own shadows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's just a little close-up photograph by Grant Hancock, actually. Where are we? Yeah, next one.
that's all your
What's
slides.
happening? Pardon?
I think that's all your slides.
Oh no, I haven't talked about the pour here one, the one with all the little packets.
Yes. Yep. Is that it?
Nah. Keep going. That one. Haven't told that one. No. They keep moving. The one, like, there's lots of little packets and they're kind of brown.
That one?
No, I keep going. There's lots of them, like lots of little ones. You had it, that one. Can you stop there?
Yep, stopped.
Right. So that was the one you were asking about. Yeah, when we had to stay at home all the time, we couldn't go out. So I made this then pretty much, because I needed to keep working for this exhibition in Port Augusta, and I sort of felt like I couldn't really go to the studio because I have a lovely little studio at Collective Haunt now, which is awesome. But this one I created at home. I was just thinking of like the landscapes we just travelled through up to Grindle's Hut, and also we'd recently been to Edithburg and we'd been on the beach, and I thought, oh, there's black sand on this beach, and I like squatted down and picked it up to look at it closely and realised it was ash from like bushfires.
Oh.
And there had been a bushfire there, but I wasn't sure if it had washed from Kangaroo Island or if it was from the local one. So this was just thinking about the landscapes we'd recently travelled through and the losses suffered through the bushfires and the you know, droughts and climate change. And there's little bits of text that just keep saying just add water and pour here and can you feel the heat? Like there just seem to be these apt little bits of text within the packaging. Can you feel the heat? That was a ginger tea bag. But the materials on this is just experimenting with different kinds of saps and tea and coffee and wine and bushfire ash and charcoal. Just sort of lay it on smoke a bit. And just wanted to suggest landscape.
Fabulous, fantastic, fascinating process.
Make a suggestion with the tops of the torn paper that it could be the ranges. Or,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the shape of a tree.
Can I ask if your kids are sick of porridge yet?
It's their favourite food.
Hey.
They've themselves porridge about. So that means that when they want to porridge for tea, they give me a lunch. And,
That's fair. Yep.
that's a nice meal. They love porridge, but it's not. It's actually something we just got for a treat. Like it, because these are those little ones, the little packets, and they've got like a bit of sugar in and stuff. But another, that's basically my kit. I keep eating more than I should now.
I think I'm getting every third word. Something about sugar and porridge.
Pardon?
I was only getting every third word. Shall we open up for questions? Unless you've got anything else you wanted to add before we do that, Fran?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Now we can.
I'm not sure why. What was your question?
I was wondering if there was other questions. So we're going to open up for questions, unless there's anything else you want to say.
Well, maybe the questions will bring them out.
Yeah. So has anyone got a question for Fran?
Of course I do. Sorry. It's Simone here. Does anyone else want to go first? You go. Okay. I'll just fire up the video. Fran, I was just having a look at your your Insta page. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Those two packets.
I think
And they've got the bones of the dead animals.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little about them?
Yeah, that's like it's collage. So they're photographs of like as we were walking around Grindel's Hut through the there's a lot of LA. There's a lot of really great bushwalk stuff. We're walking around with the kids, and the kids were counting the dead things. As we got near to some of the permanent waterholes that are a lot drier than they should be, there was a lot more dead things because there'd been more animals more recently. But we were photographing those, and like the local people at Eaglewater and Epabunna were quite sort of sad at how dry it got and how the waterholes had dried out. And plants, like edible plants, and like the local bush tucker, it was even sort of, a lot drier than it should be. Like fruits that should have kind of been there were too dry to eat. But so the photographs of the dead, so it was like a lot of dead kangaroos and rock wallabies and goats and stuff. And then I just collaged them into the packaging and treated it the same way. And I sort of tried to create landscapes where it's like those beautiful animals that are, so much part of the country and the ecosystem. I just sort of wanted to make them part of the land, so that they sort of turn into the trees, like the in the drawings themselves. I've tried to kind of make it so that you could sort of like they're kind of camouflaged in there, and then you realize, oh yeah, there's some bones and that's a dead animal, or first of all it might look like trees in a landscape, but then you sort of take a double look and it's like it's a carcass sort of becoming part of the landscape. But I was trying to breathe life into them in a way, and also just make a point about just the shocking dryness.
It's they're so beautiful, and they are. I've ridden a motorbike up that way, Fran, and it's just such a extraordinary landscape. It's so old, but they feel like they are old, like the landscape is, like they're fossils that are being uncovered, that sort of are actually in the surface of the land.
Yeah,
depicted it. They're extraordinary.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was the idea. Yeah, because the land, they look much larger in the images. They look like they're as big as the hills, I guess. But I just felt like they were so important, these little lives.
And it's sort of, for me, because I've spent a bit of time up there. I did some teaching in Lee Creek and Port Augusta and Whyalla, and it sort of captures I think you said stark before. It captures the kind of energy, the heavy, stark reality of our land and the ancientness of our culture. Those dead animals seem to be kind of a way to depict that, a way to kind of capture it. I don't know if it's the sharp bones or
seeing
a carcass stretched across a yeah, like it's tough up there. You can't run out of fuel, or
Mm.
you've got to really think about things.
Yeah, you got to have your wits about it.
Yeah, the heat and the lack of water and the distance between people, and yeah, I feel like you've captured it with that.
Thank you. I still want to keep exploring that. This feels like beginnings because, you know, it's hard to get stuck into your art practice. You know, doing everything with teaching, and, you know, it's hard to know what to put, like, prioritize everything, right? But I often feel I've just begun these things, I've just begun them and like really developed them, and I've got an exhibition. So those, yeah, I'm really excited about them, but I know what to do more with them. I'm excited about where they're beginning at. Anyway.
Still having a fair bit of trouble with your signal. That sounded like a really fabulous little bit to share with us.
Oh, well, just fill it in with all these intelligent, inspiring words.
Okay. Was there another question?
Can I say something for her then? I'll do her talking. No. So Fran joined Collective Haunt in February, and it's been an absolute delight, I must say. And mainly because she works the dead opposite to me, because I am fussy about everything and every fine little detail, and I'll give you an example. So last Friday night, Fran and I were the last to stay there. So we stayed over a glass of wine, again using Jerry Saltz. He said, even when you're drinking wine, draw. So Fran and I drew, but it was mainly my doing, because I wanted to see how Fran worked. I wanted to get inside Fran's head, because I've just watched her make this work, and this is only such a small portion of what we're going to see in Port Augusta. So I am definitely going to Port Augusta to see this hung, because it's going to look amazing. But to actually lay down on the floor where we were with a blank canvas, and I just wanted to work like Fran worked. So we did this collaboration, and it was the most frustrating night of my life, because every time I'd put something down on paper, she'd mess it up. She'd come in and she'd splash something over the top. She'd rub something, she'd do something. And I'm just like, oh my God, I've got to be not so precious. And it's like, and so I think Fran's the best medicine that I'm going to have with my art practice too. And I don't know whether, Fran, you get a chance to say, but like I came back with all these beautiful images from India from my trip, and straight away all Fran wanted to do was pinch these images. So these photographs of bikes, which I doubled up on, I gave to Fran, and straight away she's got the gesso on it. She's covered everything but a minute little bit of the drawing. And then just to watch her work, and maybe Fran, you might be able to tell them a bit about your method, because you don't just, I don't know when she decides something's finished, because I don't think it ever is with Fran. Whereas, you know, I get to a point with my work that I know, and I've had enough of that, that's done. But with Fran, I think she could just keep working on these works for the rest of her career. So maybe you could tell us how you know when you've finished a work, Fran, if it'll let you. But anyway, that's my bit. You're a legend.
You're a legend. I didn't notice you being precious. You were painting with your hair. I was
trying very hard.
I'll give you a high distinction for that. Now you just, like, for me, you just sort of cut out for a little while there. You just said, how do I know when I've finished? Is that right?
Yeah, basically, like, because I just said you could keep working, like, as far as I can see, you could work on this work for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's just life keeps happening. Like, I think my artwork's always been about responding to my immediate surroundings in that moment that I'm in different ways. So probably more moments will happen that I will want to somehow record or, you know, explore. But I'd still feel like I want to go back to that tree, and I do feel like it's just beginnings that I want to explore more. I used to go up, so I always feel very like I don't know, you know, like I just feel right when I'm kind of in those arid areas where there's, you know, like saltbush and native pines and dry creek beds, and I do want to keep. Yeah.
And did you used to draw when you were a child up there?
Sorry?
Did you draw when you were a child going to those parts?
Yeah, my dad used to get us to sketch from life a fair bit, and he taught me how to draw without using an outline. And I remember him first saying it to me, and I'm like, don't be silly, of course you can't draw, you know, without an outline. And then he showed me what he meant, and I was like, oh. So we did used to sketch a fair bit, and yes. But Jane asked me when I know I'm finished. I know, like with an individual artwork, like first I'll just be freely sort of playing and pushing it around and mucking around, and then when it gets towards, well, there's always a point where like I start off and I'm really excited, like, yeah, this is great, this is amazing, and then it gets to a point where, oh no, it's not working, like it's really crap, and now it doesn't work, and I've wrecked it. And then there's this big struggly period where it's really difficult and it's not going to work, and I get really grumpy, and then hopefully eventually it sort of starts to fall back into place, and then it's like a sigh of relief, like, oh, that's better, now it's finished. But right in the last stages, it's about composition usually, because I feel like I want to look at it and feel satisfied. Like I don't want to look at it and feel like there's something annoying me, or, you know, it's too busy, or my eye keeps going that way. Like it just becomes about like that formal element of composition and balance, and that bit, I guess that sounds a little boring, but all the bits leading up to that are really expressive and exploratory, and then those last stages just become about trying to get it balanced and unified and compositionally satisfying. That's one of the, I guess that's probably the main thing, apart from including everything in it that I want to communicate, like the different elements that I, you know, I've got ideas of different parts of the story that I want to suggest within it in different ways. So that helps to make me know I've completed it as well. If that answers your question.
Thanks. Sorry, I had to move inside because I think there's too many people using my internet here in my house. It's like a little artist co-op. Any other questions for Fran?
I've got one, Fran, Donna. You did speak about how you made, like you were looking for different ways to continue your practice with kids around. Was that a conscious thing, or did you just realise that you weren't able to do things the way you had been, so something needed to change?
I remember just feeling a bit frustrated, because, you know, I didn't want to stop being an artist altogether, and I just kept sort of trying to set up. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I kept trying to sort of set up an easel and a canvas and get my oil paints out, and, you know, all that takes about like half an hour to get organised. And then, you know, one of the kids would be crying and want a hug or want to be held, and I'd be covered in cadmium, and, you know, like it just didn't work. So I just got it. And also, like, I used to draw all the time when I was out sort of with people, like socialising or bands or parties, or not that I had a very wild life, but or, you know, breakfast or a barbecue or just everyday moments. But you need both your hands to do that. And also I'm quite shy, so that all started because I was shy, and I thought, all right, if I don't know what to say to anyone, I'll just sit here and draw.
And they'll leave me alone.
And then people just started talking about my drawing, so that was easy. So then I just sort of got to talk to people more, but stopped being shy actually, but for the most part. But then when I had kids, you know, like you don't have two hands, they're always full of things and kids, and so something had to change. And actually Yusuf, like I was complaining to him, and he said, oh, you've just got to come up with a process that fits in with lifestyle now. And as he said it, I was looking at the kitchen table. And I thought, right, I will then. Then I said to him, right, so the kitchen table is going to be covered in a raw canvas, and I'm just going to draw what passes across it. And I'm not sure he liked that idea to start with, but he learnt to
live with it,
be tolerant of it. And yeah, just because I think he thought, oh, this is going to suck, because, you know, we need the table, but he very
Keep mum happy.
kindly worked his way around it, so that was good. So that's but I do like, you know, I like to include my kids, and I'm a bit like, I just want to be with them, you know, I want to be at school with them. And I don't want to be away from them for, I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit sort of like, it's embarrassing sometimes. Like, because I'm at school, I've sort of got my nose stuck to the window, like, you know, just watching them in the classroom, and then they're just not even interested. They're like, Mummy, just go away. But
I had a conversation, I think it was earlier in the year, with Yusuf about you having had some work finished and ready for an exhibition that you had in your house, like ready to go, and the kids just popping up to it and starting to draw on it again. I wonder how that is for you with those fuzzy boundaries about what's art and who's drawing on what when and things like that.
I'm just so not precious that it's probably a problem in itself, because I just like, you know, I just feel like it's all part of the process. Like, if they spill something on it and they wreck, you know, a bit of the drawing, then that's just part of the drawing. Like, that's just part of the story, and that's how it happens. And you know, and even, yeah, like, I just feel like I've just got to accept that, otherwise it's stressful, and it's just pointless stress. Like, I'll just embrace it as a important part of the process. And like, I remember a curator handing one of my artworks so delicately with such respect and care, and, you know, like, he was just holding the corners like this and being so careful, which of course is his job. And I'm just thinking, oh, like, you don't need to treat it like that. And then he gave it to me so carefully, and I just like screwed it into my car. Like, I'm just not precious, but I just feel like, yeah, it's just part of it, because I'm a mum, and you know, these are kids, and accidents going to happen, and that's just part of the story.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
I think we could all learn a lot from you.
Yeah, something happened in the studio the other day. Oh, like, Jane was there when I was splattering paint across this big canvas I was playing around with, and I totally wrecked this little drawing I'd spent ages on of this little bird. Like, I just like squeezed this big spurt of ink across the canvas, and I had this finely little drawn bird, and it just splattered straight across the middle of the bird and blotted it out. But I just had to think, right, that's part of the process. That bird was meant to be splattered out. And the work's going to be better for it in the long run. I just have to tell myself these things so I don't get, you know, otherwise it would be stressful. There's too much else to stress about.
That's for sure.
You had some little pictures of bullfinches in the studio when we were there for...
Zebra finches, yeah.
Zebra finches.
Yeah, yeah.
But I haven't seen any here on your slides. You said they're sort of significant to you.
They are, yeah. They're just so amazing. We, for a lot of reasons, but I met as like, because when we got there, like, there was no sign of life on the drive-in, like nothing. And every corner that we turned, I felt like surely something's going to be alive around this corner. The only thing that we saw that was alive was these Acacia victoriae. They're called these just these acacia plants that were blooming. And then we got there, and like, I spread a canvas over the tabletop in the kitchen, and after a day or so, a little bug crawled across it, and I was like, everyone come here, something's alive. Everyone crowded into the kitchen to have a look at this bug. But then gradually animals started appearing, like the rock wallabies came up to the house and a stumpy came every day, and these zebra finches that were behind the rainwater tank, because wherever they are, you know, there's water not too far away. And then I bumped into a scientist that was researching them, and she said that they're really well adapted to arid, dry conditions and droughts and things, and that when they lay their eggs, if it's a drought, like, and it's really extra hot and dry, they sing a different song to the eggs, and the babies in the eggs listen and develop differently to better adapt to those conditions.
Wow. Yeah,
so it was research from Deakin University, I think, and there's a little video online that you can find called It's Hot Outside, is what it's called. And it tells you the story about the zebra finches. So I was pretty intrigued by that. And also, when my dad was telling me about the geology, because he used to camp out in, you know, those areas for weeks and weeks at a time. But he said when he saw zebra finches, he would follow them to find water, because they'd always be near water. Yeah.
You really had rock wallabies come up to the house?
Yeah. And the ranger said, feed them because they're starving, because
wow.
there's just no food. So and she said, like, don't give them anything with yeast in it, because that will kill them. So we couldn't, you know, leave any bread out or anything. But she said, throw out citrus peel and like veggie scraps and stuff, which we did. And yes, they were hungry. And a stumpy would come up every day too and eat bits of pumpkin.
We grew up with stumpies when I was a kid.
Where did you grow up?
I had Woodner. Do you know where that is? Near Sajuna?
Oh, right. Sajuna,
We
yeah.
had a stumpy called Hot Lips.
Oh, that's a good name.
We used to have stumpy tail races.
Oh, stumpies are the best. I used to see a lot more of, I grew up in Eden Hills, and I remember seeing them in the garden when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure we did. Like there's lots of blue tongues still. Well, they're not as many as there used to be, but I never see stumpies around here anymore.
Yeah, I think they're still only up where you were in the Vulcan.
Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Maybe they didn't. I have to look that one up.
Actually, I think the Arnamutta word for sleepy lizard is gulda, because I used to teach in Whyalla, and my home group teacher had the nickname Gulda. But the local Nungas used to talk about him being very sleepy. So they used to call him like Sleepy Lizard, because he was so kind of laid back.
Yeah, they're cool. They're
Any other questions for Fran before we wrap up? You don't have to ask the question. You can just post it in the chat box if you want. There's also a link on here for feedback if you want to do that while you're wrapping up. And then we're going to head into Greta. Have you got a question, Greta?
No, I just love the fragility of your work, Fran.
Thanks.
Especially the little one that we can see on the screen now.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah,
that's a nice word. But a lot of, like, it sort of seems so like the country, you know, there was elements of it that it seems so fragile but so tough all the time.
yeah.
Someone hasn't had water for 4 years, it's going to be pretty brutal.
I know. Just that sentence, it hasn't rained in 4 years, it's just like so eye-opening. Yeah, and I rung up people at Eager Water recently, and I said, has it rained yet? And they said, pardon, what rain? What's that? What's rain again? But actually, when you say the fragility, I like the idea, but you suggested this to me, and I like this idea of just taking one little tea bag and just exhibiting that as a humble little landscape all by itself.
All right, well, we might wrap up. Thanks so much. Really, really special wander through your work and your practice and your residency. And it's lovely to have everyone here to share that. Yeah, it's really a dream come true. So thanks for supporting the project and for your time today.
Thank you. You're all dream come true. Thanks a lot.
No worries. All right, we'll see you later, Fran.
Yeah.